average annual value. Dak is the highest paid quarterback, but there's a lot of pain and angst to get there. And Marcus Spears is right in the middle of it. Swagoo, you just heard Todd Archer say, no, nothing. There is nothing going on. How concerned are you?
I'm concerned, but I'm concerned, Hannah, from the football standpoint of things. Like, we've seen contract disputes. We've seen them go all the way to your point, like you talked about that, all the way up until hours before a game. And initially, I was going to have this crazy reaction to Micah demanding a trade and all of that. And my mind shifted right back to Myles Garrett and how he demanded a trade and ended up being the highest paid. So it could be a negotiating tactic. The problem is that this is 3 now summers in a row where Dallas has had their face of their franchise unsigned, not participating in team activities. And we're talking about a team with a new head coach, in Micah's case, a new defensive coordinator in Eberflus, and we don't have the best player, one of the top 5 defensive players in the NFL on the field to get things going. Therein lies my issue. Like the contract stuff, we could talk for 3 hours about how bad and mishandled this has been, from getting him signed earlier, giving you flexibility to do other things, all the way up until this war of words in the media, seemingly between Micah and Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones more so than anybody. It's a bad situation. And I don't know if money is going to fix the relationship. And I know a lot of people, well, he's going to get paid, everything will be fine, he'll just play football. But when you're counting on a guy like Micah to be the leader of your team, to be one of the faces of your franchise, and even though he has money in his pocket, he may feel unsupported, that could be an issue within the locker room, and which can permeate and translate to on the field. And it's always been that for me. The way Jerry handles business affects the actual play of football when the game starts. And that is something I've been screaming for a number of years when it comes to Dallas.
Yeah, I 100% see the comparison to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And I'll go back to Ezekiel Elliott a few years before even Dak got his money, in that Jerry does wait till the last second. But I also got the feeling Jerry loved Ezekiel Elliott. Even when Zeke was in Cabo, like, Jerry loved Zeke. That was his guy. Took him 4th overall, that was his guy. Jerry loves Dak. And Jerry loves CeeDee Lamb. I don't get the feeling Jerry Jones loves Micah Parsons. At no point over the last 12 months has there been any sort of roses, flowers, bouquets thrown his way, or any confidence that you get that this relationship is something that is akin to those other ones. I get the feeling that he felt he had to deal with Micah Parsons, maybe against his better judgment. I didn't even feel like when we were hearing that there was some great fondness for the two. I don't think he respects the agent. I don't think he respects hearing about the agent. I certainly don't think he respects hearing us on ESPN all day saying how great the agent is. And I think Jerry's a businessman. He wants to win this one. So I don't think this is as clean as, you know what, 11:59 a.m., kickoff weekend, Adam Schefter's going to come on and say, breaking news, Micah agreed, and everyone's going to say, yeah, we knew. I think this one gets a little hairier, and this might not be the only time both sides are talking out publicly about each other.
I hear both of you. I just think that Jerry Jones loves sacks, and I think that Micah Parsons loves money. And I think that that's what it's going to come down to for both of them. Swagger, you were talking about the idea of negotiations and, like, is this just a negotiation tactic, the idea that you put out the trade request? I say absolutely yes. Anything that is done in public is a negotiating tactic. You don't say that you want to be traded if you actually do. You go behind the scenes and do things quietly for the team to leverage it the best way possible. In this case, to me, this says, I do want to be here, and I want you to pay me so that I don't have to leave. And Jerry Jones is saying the same types of things. I just believe that ultimately it will get done at the end of the day. Maybe I'm being too naive about this. I just think that one person in Jerry Jones loves production, and I believe that one person in Micah Parsons loves money, and that's what gets this done.
Well, we'll see if he can do business as usual, speaking of Jerry Jones. And it's really too bad, because if this wasn't an issue, we'd be talking all about Dak coming back, getting a receiver on the other side of CeeDee Lamb. I mean, this narrative would be completely different. All right, let's talk about the team
Kieran Williams, the running back, signing 3 years, $33 million, which is a really big deal for the Rams, but it's also a big deal across the landscape of the NFL. This is obviously important, especially when you see $23 million guaranteed. Again, very important for this Rams team. But we can also flip this over to what is happening in Buffalo right now with James Cook as an unexpected holdout from practice, a hold-in at training camp to the surprise of Brandon Beane. With James Cook seeking that contract, this could be exactly what he needs to be able to go back to Brandon Beane and say, all right, this deal with Williams got done. Now we have a little bit more of a blueprint for how this can happen. I think this made Williams the seventh paid, highest paid running back. We're not talking about any kind of like market-setting deal here. So this kind of helps everybody understand where the market is. We'll see. Maybe this allows Cook to get his deal done as well.
Yeah, he had tripled the touchdowns last season that he did the year before, 6 the year before, 18 last year. So we'll see if Williams helps to set that market. Meanwhile, another joint practice going on today between the Colts and the Ravens. Now, Lamar Jackson was excused from practice yesterday, but he was there today. The two-time MVP coming off his best passing season with career-high numbers, runner-up MVP, but has yet, of course, to reach the Super Bowl. Here he is on the cusp of his 8th season.
I feel like our offense is always room for improvement. You know, the camp, it can be, we have good days, we have bad days, we have okay days, we have great days, you know, but I feel like it's always room for improvement. We right where we need to be right now. We don't see these guys every day, you know. We get to see different looks from different guys, different type of coverages, see how different guys guard different people, different blitzes and stuff like that. So definitely, we get a lot out of these type of joint practices.
And when it gets going for real, they're going to be tested early and often. The Ravens open the season where last season ended for them in Buffalo. Then in weeks 3 and 4, they play the Lions and the Chiefs, who each ended last year with 15-2 records. And then in weeks 5 and 6, they face the Texans and the Rams. Each of those teams won a playoff game last season. So that's 5 playoff teams in their first 6 games. But we know that the Ravens have one of the most complete rosters, top to bottom, in the NFL. So, Schrags, are you confident that they can start strong with that schedule?
Remember, they were about a millimeter shy of potentially beating the Chiefs in week 1, and then they lost to a good team in week 2, and they bounced back. And by week 3 last year, they blew out the Bills on national TV, and we're like, all right, Derrick Henry's getting settled. I have no doubt that this Ravens team is going to come ready to play. I also have no doubt that they are going to be a better team out of the gates. There were a lot of new players getting adjusted. And even in that first game against the Chiefs last year, Justice Hill was the primary back for that first 3 quarters before they started getting Derrick Henry going. This year, no surprises. Derrick Henry's going to run the ball up everyone's gut in the first few weeks, and they got better on defense. I'm really interested to see what we get out of Jair Alexander this year. That is a player that a couple years ago we were talking about as potentially being the best defensive back in all of football. Played 4 games in 2 years, and suddenly he's looked at as this injury-prone red flag. They got him on 40 cents on the dollar about what he could be if he is healthy. And Jair's been talking big this offseason. So I look at this team. I think they really went all in with Jair. They went all in with DeAndre Hopkins. And they brought back so many key players. There is no excuse left. And right out of the gates, there should be no false starts.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing their start. Here's the deal, though. Like every team that the Ravens show up on their schedule, they saying, dang, we got a hell of a start to the season, because they are one of those teams, like we looking at all of those teams that we have to play. Ultimately, it's going to boil down to the playoffs and how deep they can go, and can they get to a Super Bowl and have an opportunity to win one. And I know we getting ahead of ourselves, but that's really how we look at the Baltimore Ravens through that prism. Will they get over the Patrick Mahomes hump like most teams in the AFC have to? Will they, the Cincinnati Bengals, we know their division, how good will Pittsburgh be as well? There's a lot of things that the Ravens can take week to week and not worry about the big picture. But we on TV. We work at ESPN for a certain reason. We in the preseason. We can talk about Super Bowl obviously being in the Ravens' future. And I think I don't think Lamar is going to feel good about having a good season or a good start. This team has put themselves in a position now where it's Super Bowl or bust. And I know everybody talks about that, but this team has been super close. AFC championships, deep playoff runs. Now it's time to get over the hump. The start will be great for positioning in the playoffs if they get it done, but nobody expects the Baltimore Ravens to be hurt coming out of week 6.
Mark is 100%. It's like being Phil Mickelson in the Tiger Woods era. Like, it's got to be exhausting for them because they've got the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes constantly. And honestly, the Bills are a similar sentiment when it comes to them, and to a lesser degree, the Bengals. It's all about just getting to the postseason for their chance at the champ. Like, I remember being in Buffalo and watching them, like, with all due respect, they deserved it. It was a great win when they beat the Chiefs at home, and everybody acted like this was their moment. When it was a regular season, it didn't matter. It did not matter. And like, it's the same thing for the Ravens at this point. They need their chance at the champ in the postseason. And all due respect, everything they do in the regular season is nice. But they could go 17-0, and if they lose again in the postseason, none of it matters.
Here's the thing. Do you guys know, they have not won multiple games in the postseason. You have to go all the way back to the year they won the Super Bowl in 2012. So just think about that. Yeah. And they're going to have a rookie kicker, too. Don't forget that. All right, we're just getting started on Knicks. He improved drastically throughout the season. In his first 7 starts, he had just a 45 total QBR, 6th lowest in the NFL, threw as many interceptions as touchdowns. Come on, the guy was a rookie, right? In his last 10 starts, that QBR jumped 21 points, plus his yards per attempt and completion percentage increased dramatically. He threw for 24 touchdowns over his last 10 starts, 4th most during that span. Seth Wickersham with more on how Sean Payton found his quarterback.
On a March morning in 2024, Sean Payton held a file folder and asked me, "Do you promise with every shred of your integrity that you won't discuss this with anyone?" I said yes. He opened the folder. Inside were the names of the top quarterbacks in the draft, from Caleb Williams to J.J. McCarthy, and a series of proprietary measurements. Payton had created a new formula, a series of advanced analytics, in search of answers to maybe the hardest and most mysterious question in professional sports. Which great college quarterback